Hi everyone. What I have in front of me is another rack and pinion assembly that I put together, and I use pretty much the same techniques for the linear slide as I did in the I think it was my scissor lift. A little different, but it works in the same manner. As you can see, I'm captured. It's pretty robust. It's good. There's a lot of people that are doing a lot of pulling and lifting this year, so this is just another form of linear bearing for a rack and pinion system. Standard drive, right? Rather than put a motor on, I just put this little gear, or this large gear, to act my hand wheel to actuate that. And the reason I made this one is because I saw several people doing rack and pinions where they had a double rack, and they were gluing them down, and adhesives for something that's really critical to the proper operation of a rack and pinion. The rack really has to be in place and structurally sound. So the best way to achieve that would be through mechanical assembly, and in this case it was screws. So what I did was I doubled my rack, and I also doubled my gears on top here. You can probably barely see it, but these are two of the gears that are just face to face, and I put a pin in between the teeth right here to line them up before I pin them to the shaft, like everybody should be doing. Pin your gears so they don't slip. And so I essentially made just a wide gear that matches the width of the two racks side by side. So by now you've probably already noticed I mounted this mechanically using the small screws we get in our bag of horn. And so what I did was I took just the regular files, the ones with the yellow handles that we get, and I filed the teeth down, and I made that surface low enough that this surface right here where the screw head sits on, I made it low enough so that the profile of the screw, and whenever you hear me talk or anybody talk about the profile of the screw, that's referencing the height of the head, because the screws come in many different styles of heads. So I went low, based on the profile of the screw, which I made it so the head of the screw is below the teeth of the gear or rack. And I did that on both ends just using a file. I think I picked two of the threads on the rack on each end, and I just filed them flat. Just flat filing them with the large file. It doesn't take much time. But I was afraid now that if I just had them captured on just the two ends, I was afraid I was going to get some side flex on my racks because they were only supported out here. So what I did to alleviate that was I did the same thing in the center here. I just removed enough material that the head of the screw sits down below these teeth. Same thing here. So now when I separate these two positions, I don't have an interruption of the drive with the gears. You can see as I go over those two spots, the gear goes over smooth because I have full contact with one side of this rack when I go over this void, and they have full contact on this side of the rack when I go over this void. So that's kind of a cool way to have uninterrupted flow to the rack and pinion system like that. And again, the drive, right? Everybody should know this by now. I made my support on here. I got bushings through a shaft, goes through here, and I got the gears pinned. And then my shaft collars keep this from being able to slide linear. And I got the body mounted on just the wood. So it's a really kind of smooth way of doing it. It's very accurate. I get no side whatsoever in this particular linear bearing. And just by lowering two spots on this rack, I'm able to get by without interruption to the motion. That's kind of a cool way. So hope that helps.